Hi, Cameron. Welcome to our show, and it's great having you, by the way.
Thank you very much for having me, Arnold.
And well, we talk most of the series. We're talking about the passion within the esports, and well, it's something that you live for. It's
Yeah,
your passion.
yeah,
So
no, I would say, yeah, it's probably it's not just my career now, it's probably my whole life encompassing. So I would say that I'm very lucky that I've turned my passion and my hobby into my full-time career.
amazing. And for the audience, could you give us some more background about yourself and how things, yeah, how did you started the career and yeah, just
Yeah,
let us know. Yeah.
perfect.
Share.
So I started my esports career probably back in 2016. So I was rather late to the party. There was probably a lot of people who were already doing esports to a lot higher level than I was back in 2016. I started off by organising my university's esports society. So we took a failing gaming society and made it esports focused. We had 5 members when I joined. I left it with 300. At that point, I started running amateur teams in different ESI competitions. I took on management roles within a couple of UK-based teams. And then I went back and finished my masters. At which point I ran the largest esports varsity at that time on a shoestring budget. So the budget was actually zero.
Yes.
And that got a lot of publicity from not just my university, but Northampton as a whole. And we sort of saw the potential within esports at that point. At that point, I decided that I wanted to keep on focusing on esports. I wrote my master's thesis on the longevity of esports, and I then started doing some work with Twickenham and a few other organisations within the esports sphere. And at that point, I came back to the University of Northampton and they employed me to be an associate lecturer within esports. And currently, I do my PhD on the UK esports ecosystem at the Open University as well. So I'm currently studying towards my doctoral and I'm currently in my first year of that as well.
Wow. That's a journey though.
Yeah, it's a very long it's a long process.
Yeah.
I would say in comparison to a lot of the probably people you've had on before, my journey has been very much academia with esports, which has been fantastic and very insightful. So yeah, it's been quite an amazing roller coaster of a ride, and I guess the fruits of my labour is all starting to pay off now, where esports is now being taken more seriously within the academic sphere.
Yes, because most question is about education. So I know within the esports, people quite a lot of people ask like, okay, shall I do a university degree? Shall I not going to do a university degree? And then afterwards, sometimes you get responses back like, yeah, but I'm not going to do esports on university, or I just gonna just roll in. So could you share a bit like
Yeah.
what?
So,
Yeah,
so
about
I helped write our university degree, which I'm going to do a little bit of pushing this. It's starting in September 2021. I wrote the degree with the purpose of being both applicable to players coming out at the end of their careers, as well as people who are just wanting to go straight into the esports industry. The degree itself has a lot of soft skill transfer from different areas. So we focus a lot on journalism, marketing, media, coaching, development. So it covers a huge range of different things. One of the things that we're very passionate about is the fact that it's multidisciplinary. And we haven't just tried to make an esports degree on top of an events management degree. My master's was in events management, and I love events management, but there is a huge amount more opportunities out there within esports than just events management. So one of the big things that I would say is, yes, it's great to have a degree, and yes, it's great to work in esports. I can guarantee that I'm going to have probably about 50, 60 students at least in the first year.
oh wow.
And not every single one's going to work in esports, but I can guarantee that all the students I get through will have the skills to work in whatever industry they want to work in. And that's something that we really pride ourselves in. So yes, doing a degree is really good for development. I recommend a lot of pro players look at doing that. When I stopped playing competitively back in 2015 at Magic the Gathering, I was very glad that I was halfway through my degree because I didn't really have an exit strategy. So that is what I would suggest is it's a good exit strategy for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
I can imagine because well you're well, an amazing journey and amazing choice, and of course a lot of people as well like they haven't a clue, so they 9 of the 10 times say like, okay, shall I just do a degree? And I'm not talking about I'm not only talking about the United Kingdom, but for example US as well. Like there's a lot of youngsters from college, well they call it college, we call it university, who want to do a sort of like, well, not a career switch, but more like what kind of subject shall I take? And yeah, 9 of the 10 times they're like, oh, what's esports? And I know esports is really broad, but I think, well, let's say if and that's a question more, well, it's more a question like, what's if they're gonna go for esports, where should they start?
So we're lucky in the UK. We have a BTEC dedicated towards esports. I've done a bit of collaboration with Parsons, who organised the esports degree. Organised the BTEC esports. It's a new qualification which was launched this year. I think it's really fantastic. It has a wide range of information in terms of esports, and it also provides that foundation to go on to to higher education from further education. On top of that, if you already have A levels or equivalent or the industry experience, you could probably go into a degree not just within esports, but probably into business management or coaching. I know that at the university I work at, we accept a range of students from traditional coaching backgrounds or traditional playing backgrounds as well. So those are sort of the two options if you don't really know exactly where you want to go. In terms of looking at doing an esports degree separately or to go into university as a whole, in the UK and America, university is expensive. I'm not going to lie to students. I'm not saying go to university because you are guaranteed a job, because that isn't the case anymore. It wasn't the case when I went to university. It's definitely not the case now. But it will also make sure that when you leave university, and one of the things that we're really passionate about is the fact that students will have the skills to not only set up their own organisations and develop their own passion projects, but also have the skills that will mean that even if they don't get their first choice job straight out of university, because we're not an Oxford or Cambridge or anything along those lines, we are the University of Northampton, and we wanted to make sure that our students have those skills that down the line they will be able to come back to those skills. I would never say that one of the things that I really learned from my time at university was the fact that a lot of the skills which I've developed have come in huge opportunities for myself. I've run my own business. I've worked within talking. I've done loads of different conferences for different organisations, and for me, this was all because of the fact that I learned those soft skills. My first degree was in accounting and sports studies, so nothing to do with what I do now. But it's something that provided me with the soft skills which I could transfer over.
Yes, well, I will say like especially in the esport, because the esport is quite broad. I think it doesn't really matter where you start, for example.
So I would agree.
Yeah, it's the same. Well, my background. Well, I started the same. I started like in like programmer, and then I ended up in playing games as a passion, and I end up in the esport world. And I think that's there's no, I say it. I think no, literally like basic, like, oh, you need to like same as like a car mechanic. You don't need to start first, changing tires and all that stuff, and then
No.
I think it's quite broad. And on, let's say, on at universities, well, especially I'm not going to go too deep in the situation now in 2020, because that's like a main topic. But how are you, let's say, dealing and coping now with the pandemic? I assume you work from home, and how does
Yeah.
that affect your
So
esports?
So I'm guessing that I'm quite lucky in the fact that our course wasn't starting until September 2021. Anyway, I do go into work. Universities are still open in the UK currently, which is a blessing, I would say, for a lot of students. It gives them some sort of focus. I like going to work at the university. I've never worked full time at home, and I don't really plan to. I really struggle with it. I think I'm like a lot of people where I need that social interaction just to make sure that I'm actually keeping my head focused.
Yeah, of course.
And when it comes to how the university has been working on it, I think since the government has given a lot of power to universities, they've been able to do a lot of positive things for the local communities. So the university I work at, we have 2 track and trace centres on campus. Yeah. So the local community can reach out to them. We were, I think, one of the first campuses to reopen to the general public. And I would say probably my big piece of advice for people who are working at home is have as much a routine as possible.
Yeah, of course.
What you usually have. I was talking to this about to my colleagues within the sports and exercise department, which was do a commute, even if you do a commute like you would go to work. Before I start every day, I go for a 15-minute walk around the block. Otherwise, I go mad because my commute technically currently is 7 steps from my bed to my desk. And stuff like that is it's hard to not go insane with stuff like that whilst you're working at home, especially as we're now back in a lockdown and we're now 20 days into it.
Yeah, because I know that there's a lot of new virtual gaming centers. They're popping up everywhere in the world at the moment. So even if you play a couple of games, you can just join these virtual events or virtual gaming centers. I know it's totally different than a physical one because physical you got more, I will say, more interaction. You see a lot of other people, and that's amazing. But are you part of like a virtual gaming center as well, or are you? Are you joining one or?
Yeah, so I've worked with a few. I've done a few different tournaments over the lockdown period, more in lockdown 1 than in lockdown 2. I've just been unfortunately swamped with my PhD and other work. I've ran a few events. I think it's really, really positive that esports has been able to take that place of traditional sport in a lot of instances. I know traditional sport is now back on televisions, but in lockdown tier 1, lockdown version 1, that esports break really not only cemented esports continuously, in my opinion. The viewership numbers grew dramatically. They also brought in a lot of non-traditional gamers into taking part within gaming. I've been able to do a couple of events with local businesses, and they've been able to have a couple of different matches and different games, and that's been quite fun to stream and broadcast to people. It also has been able to work. I would say lockdown has been very advantageous to the esports industry. It's probably one of the very few industries it has been to, in the fact that a lot more organisations are taking it more seriously now. Yeah. And that's something which has been a huge reflection in terms of sponsorship opportunities for the major teams. And that's something which I guess esports has to be proud of, is the fact that it's been able to work really well during lockdown. This year's World Championship had a 6,000 capacity. 6,000 people watched the final for the League of Legends World Championship in China, and that's a big congratulations to Riot Games and all their employees to make sure that was workable. I think esports has probably shown the way for a lot more industries how to get back into normality. And I think that's something for which is been very beneficial.
Yeah, I think the the esport world since lockdown, or let's say since this year, has changed quite a lot, and in a really positive way. So yeah, how people are getting more interactive, like Twitch, for example, where people stream more online than it was before, and more interaction as well with everybody online as before. And this is my experience. Then within the UK, we had a gaming center in the UK, physical gaming center in the UK, where we just only played with the group of 20, and then of course we reached out to different countries, but that's it. But now, if you can see how much people you meet in, let's say, even if you join a virtual gaming center, you have bigger teams now who are
Yeah.
supporting as well. So what's your favorite game? What are you playing at the moment?
So I play a lot of League of Legends. I am your traditional, I guess, esports player, in terms of the fact that I stick to MOBA games, and I do a lot of card strategy games. So when I first started joining esports, I was a Magic the Gathering pro, well, semi-pro,
Right.
before it was made even online. So I used to play the card game to a particularly high level back in between 2012 and 2015. So I qualified a couple of times for the World Championships, and I never managed to go because I was still within school. But I was relatively quite good. So I still do a lot of card games now. I think I've reached Diamond this season on Legendary Terror, and I reached Diamond in Magic the Gathering last season. So I played to a pretty good a level in terms of those. And I guess in terms of my favorite games, I played a lot of Overwatch as well when Overwatch first came out, and I got to Diamond in that. So I've never been the best player by any stretch of the imagination, but I try to do a lot more coaching now than I do playing. So I do a lot more strategy focus. So I've been lucky enough I've worked with players who are very good at micro level, but have really bad macro mechanics. And I think macro is looking at the bigger picture and making sure that players look at their own performance. It is so vital in terms of the development of esports players that I've managed to carve my career, not because I'm mechanically gifted, but because of the fact that I can see how players can better develop themselves to make sure they're better athletes.
Well, I think it's really important that people like you, experts like you, need to be within the esport world, especially with new players who are seeking for advice, seeking for different knowledge, and of course to improve and go to the next level. So it's really, well, it's amazing that like mentoring is offering. But I see in at the moment in the esport world that sometimes some organizations don't take it seriously, and hopefully you agree with that with me. But
Yeah, I would
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, sorry.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think the larger organizations are now starting to see the benefits of a macro focused development strategy. If you looked at the Excel branding change, which was announced at the beginning of November, they have focused way more on holistic coaching and holistic ideologies. I'm sure that Kieran and the rest of the XL team would not mind me saying that I think their strategy is very forward thinking. And I also think that they have been able to develop a clear cut understanding in terms of what they want to do. One of my former teammates from Rugby League is now their performance manager at XL. So I've seen what they've been able to do there. And I think that's something that they really are putting passionate into. I think at the top tier in terms of Europe and probably North America, they're really focusing on player development in terms of esports. I think China and Korea are struggling because they've always had really good micro mechanics, but they haven't really focused on the macro and the holistic approaches towards players. And I think that's why some of their best players have retired early. And I think if we're going to look at esports, say 2-3 years down the line, I think every team will have a holistic approach to player development, because at some point we're going to run out of young people who would be willing to live under those conditions, because it's very stressful. Burnout is very large. The whole reason why I became a macro focused coach was the fact that I was dealing with university students, and they were struggling to cope with the fact that they were students and well as players. And one of the big things that I realized was the fact that they needed that additional support and guidance from sort of a figurehead. And that's why I'm a lecturer. And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to next year, when I've got my first years with cohort, is that guiding process. To get my students through their university degrees and become better players and better individuals who can work in the esports industry, and also support new and young players coming through. The amazing thing about esports is the fact that players start so young, and they don't get the support usually until they've reached the very top. So hopefully more tier 2 and tier 3 organizations will follow suit.
Amazing. Before we're going to end the show, is there anything important you'd like to share with the listeners and of course the viewers that is, well, I'm not going to say the shout out, but something like, okay, guys, this is going to change the world.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm quite happy to. So I think the thing that's going to change esports for the better is going to be the fact that esports is going to continue to grow, but also the people within it are going to continue to grow. I think the best thing about the esports industry is the fact that people are so willing to talk about it. I think the information sharing is fantastic. And what I will see the esports industry doing in the future is expanding, not to be something which is like sport, but also better than sport. In terms of what we are showing within esports right now, is we're going to surpass sport in the next 10 years. And because of that, that's really exciting. If I was looking at this from a fresh pair of eyes, from someone who wasn't involved in the esports industry but wanted to get involved in it, there is a million opportunities out there for people within volunteering, operations, etc., to get involved. I did all, for about 2 years out of the 5 years careers I've had in esports, was all volunteering. It's only this last couple of months that I've been able to make it my full-time job. And my career path has been very different to a lot of people, but it could also be a career path that anyone could follow as well. So if you want a career in esports, it's very achievable.
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for today.
Thank you very much, Arnold. It was lovely to talk to you.